Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It is a new one in a new series of mine that I call Benvarmeren's Breakdowns, where I'll be pretty much analyzing whatever I really want to analyze. It is a series where I can analyze games, analyze pick and ban phases, items, patch notes, stuff like that. Pretty much whatever. And it's a separate series from Benvarmeren's Continuum because I don't want to use that series as a way of analyzing things. So I don't want that to be an analytical series. I want that to be a series of thoughts, like videos that I make so that people get food for thoughts. And now I'm making Benvarmeren's Breakdowns so that I can keep making these analytical videos. So today we are going to be taking a look at G2 versus Fnatic game 1, 2, and 3 from the EULCS 2017 spring split, like yesterday, the games yesterday. And we'll be taking a look at every game, because I really think that every game had a very interesting draft phase. So I really want to talk about that, and I think G2 Esports came out ahead most of the times, but I want to tell you why. So let's just jump straight into it, shall we? Okay, so now we can jump into it. This is the first game between G2, as you can see up in your that way. Good. So you can see that up on your screen that it is the first game between Fnatic and G2 Esports. So let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so first off, they ban away Katarina, and Caps has been playing a lot of Katarina in solo queue. I'm pretty sure of that, if I remember correctly. And you have to ban away Rengar because he is pretty much the strongest jungler right now. He has a lot of mobility, a huge shield, crowd control immunity, so you don't want to give that over as well. And alongside all of that, he has a lot of damage as well. So what I think was a huge theme throughout all three pick and ban phases, and generally for G2, is that they like to ban away AD carries. And Fnatic, while they aren't a bad team, they don't recognize when they have to pick up an AD carry, because you can see they continue to ban away Camille, and that's fine. But if I remember correctly, then they pick up Lee Sin, and while Lee Sin is okay, you end up in a situation, and I'll show you later, where you don't have a good AD carry to pick, basically. So LeBlanc also being banned away, you don't want to give that over as well when stuff like Cinder still is open. You could pick that up for yourself, but with Fnatic still having the possibility to pick Cinder, you want to let that open in order to perhaps pick it up for yourself. But with Zyra coming in, that's really smart. She is the strongest support right now. She brings so much to the lane, and you don't want to give that over to your opponent, that strong support. So I really like that pick from Expect, just because of that fact that you get that strong support and you get that lane control, and on top of that you also get a lot of crowd control that you can use later on in the game. What I really think is a problem for Fnatic is that at this point you should recognize that either you pick up Varus or you pick up Ashe. I don't think Ryze is a bad pickup, and Caps is in no way a bad Ryze. You should just wait with it, in my opinion. You have Lee Sin. You don't need to pick a mid laner right here. You don't need to pick it blindly. You could go for that Ashe. You could go for a top laner of Maokai perhaps, because he's still open. So you don't have to pick the Ryze, and that is going to bite you a little bit in the butt, because if we move on, then you end up seeing that Fnatic, they see that G2, they pick Ashe. Really smart of G2, because then you get pretty much the strongest bottom lane, in my opinion right now. You obviously, you know, Varus is still open, and he's a really strong bottom lane as well. But alongside Zyra, Ashe is simply just better because all of the poke you get, and Varus has a fairly long cooldown on his Q and his E, so Ashe gets more more ways of spamming her abilities in order to gain lane control, which is one of the things that I love about Ashe. So Fnatic, they decide to pick up Nami, and when you go up against Zyra, you are going to get punished because Nami doesn't have a lot of mobility, and Zyra has a snare that can catch you out of position. Obviously, Nami gives you playmaking potential in the bottom lane that you could use alongside Lee Sin, and obviously Ryze once he gets his realm warp, in order to like move around the map in order to make plays alongside Nami. But the problem at this point really is that Fnatic, they, in my opinion, didn't recognize that Taliyah was still open and Varus is still open, because you really want to get an AD carry that can complement this playmaking style of yours on the side of Fnatic. And G2, if we move on, they recognize this fact, so they ban away Varus. And that pretty much, in terms of utility AD carries, only leave you Sivir open for the taking. But Fnatic, they ban away Syndra, and you obviously have to ban away Syndra because she is a very strong mid laner. Despite her nerfs, has been toned down a little bit, not too much, and she is still really strong. But I like how G2 are banning, because you see that first off, the Jhin is just a very smart ban, but also the Rumble coming out from their side is, in my opinion, really smart, because you already see that Fnatic, they have the bricks of building a teamfight composition. With Ryze, with Lee Sin, you can get through the early game. You can also get to late game because you already have so much damage from Ryze in the late game. But so see here, as I was saying, G2, they ban away Varus, and you have to ban that away because, again, Fnatic, you don't want to give them that very strong utility AD carry. If you give Fnatic that, then you give them more playmaking potential, and that is exactly what Fnatic needs at this point. They really need that playmaking potential. So as I was saying, it only really leaves Sivir open for the taking in terms of utility AD carries, and while she's not top of the meta, she certainly wouldn't be bad here. You would get that like utility that you need in order to make the rest of your team work, especially when you already have a Maokai and a Ryze. Sivir's on the hunt would actually work pretty well. And then also the fact that Fnatic then ban away Orianna. I would rather have seen you give over Orianna instead of allowing G2 Esports to get this Taliyah. Because now with G2 Esports' composition, you have so much global pick potential. You have the Ashe ultimate, you have Shen with his Stand United, you have the Weaver's Wall coming out from Taliyah, and then you even have Rek'Sai with and global ultimate. So she can also move around the map really fast in order to make even more plays. So the problem for Fnatic really here is that they got outdrafted really hard in terms of which champions were open in the ban phase, because I don't think that their first pick rotation were necessarily bad. I just felt like they needed to know which like champions were open. You don't pick Ryze when Ashe is still open, because you need to ban it away. You know, well, not ban, but pick it away, because you know that there is a Zyra on the side of G2 Esports. You know that Zyra and Ashe is a strong bottom lane, and you don't want to allow that to happen. And then also the problem about it, in my opinion, like the biggest problem is that Jessus apparently wanted to play Nami, and she's not a bad support. She just gets countered really hard by Zyra because of the immobility that Nami has, and all of the crowd control utility damage that the Zyra packs alongside Ashe, who also has a lot of damage and a lot of poke. So Fnatic, in the end, they felt it necessary to pick an Ezreal, and Ezreal is fine. He's not a bad AD carry. He just doesn't fit into this meta where you want to get control of the bottom side, where you want to get that early tower in order to move into the mid lane and keep snowballing that way. He brings a lot of damage to the table. Yes, he fits really well into their team composition of going to the late game, but that is Fnatic's playstyle. That is how they also played in the last season, where they went on a losing streak of like 10 games or something, because they just kept going for the late game, kept going for these drawn out games, which they simply cannot do against a team like D2 Esports, who like to play it really fast, really coordinated, and they want to punish you for every mistake that you make. And especially when they have a global composition, then they can do that, then they can punish you, and you don't want to give your opponent that way of playing, because it'll only hurt you. So Fnatic, they lost this draft phase in my opinion, and they also lost the game. So now we move over to the second game, and Fnatic, as you can see on the screen, they lost the first game. Didn't have a really good pick and ban phase either, as I criticized them for in the first half of this video, or like the first 1/3 of this video. So now we move on to the second pick and ban phase. And G2, like Fnatic, know that you can't leave Rengar open when you are on the red side, because blue side has first pick. So you have to ban it away. Good. So Fnatic, they also recognize that Shen was a huge pain in the ass in the last game, so they banned that away immediately. And also, you know, Ivan is also still a fairly good jungler. He's not like having a lot of damage, but he's just and playmaking potential. Sorry, but he has a lot of utility, and we know Trick is a jungler that likes to rely a little bit on his team in order to make these necessary plays, in order to like carry them on his back. He won't go for Deadly Sin, he won't go for necessarily Graves anymore. He used to play a lot of Graves, but the thing is that yes, he can play aggressive, but he can also play that utility style, so he can go for both those styles. And he's really been a player that has been really good in moving around, transitioning, adapting his playstyle, so to say, to his team. So G2 Esports, they also banned away Camille and LeBlanc. Not really any bans coming out against Fnatic from the last composition, because Fnatic pretty much just laid on the ground and waited for G2 to stamp on them in the last pick and ban phase. Whereas Fnatic, they still had to pay respect to the Shen and to the Ivern. And it might sound a little bit harsh when I say that they just laid on the ground and waited for D2 Esports to just roll over them, but that is what I felt like Fnatic did. They didn't really come out with a good idea in the pick and ban phase. They didn't recognize all the strong champions. So I really like what they're doing now, because they pick up the Zyra, and I really think that is super smart, because you saw how strong Mythic were in the last game. You saw the fact that you left Ashe open, and you don't want to leave both Zyra and Ashe open, so you have to pick either one of them up here. And so they pick up Zyra, and I think that is the stronger of the two. Ashe is not a bad AD carry at all. The only problem about Zyra is just that there is the counter of Misfortune, so you don't want to like pick Zyra unless you are comfortable on her, if you also get the playmaking potential of an AD carry, because Misfortune will deny you and your plans, and that just leaves Ashe as being a strong AD carry like in the last game, where she can carry on her own pretty much from all of her poke, from her volley and from her Q as well. So instead, Fnatic, they go over and pick up Lee Sin and Ryze, and I do like the Lee Sin pickup. I still feel like amazing. He's an old school jungler, he knows how to play the Lee Sin. The only thing that I'm disliking is still again the Ryze pickup. You don't have to pick it this early. You should have gone for an AD carry, because what I don't know if Fnatic they recognize it, but there is still a second ban phase, and at this point in the game, you only get 3 picks. So you got Zyra, you got Lee Sin, and you got Ryze. You could have waited with the Ryze pickup. You have the first pick in the second rotation, and unless G2 Esports they go out to ban 2 mid laners, then they could ban away like 2 mid laners, and that won't be enough because Caps, he can play Orianna. Syndra hasn't been banned. Taliyah is still open. Cassiopeia is open. There are 4 mid laners at least you can go for later on, and even Ryze wouldn't have necessarily been picked up or banned. So even if they picked Ryze, then you would still have Syndra, Taliyah, Cassiopeia, Syndra, Taliyah, Cassiopeia, or Orianna to pick from. Okay, so that's 4 mid laners that you don't have to, well, that you could pick later on unless Ryze is also isn't picked. Then that's 5 mid laners, and you can ban away 2 of them. So I don't think that picking Ryze at this stage is the smartest idea. I really would like to see something like Jhin, something like Varus, just to get that playmaking potential on top of your Lee Sin and your Zyra. Because what Fnatic really needs is some early game pressure. They need some ways of playing in the early game, which they simply hadn't got in the last game. And therefore they really lost, because their team composition, it needs to get to the late game, and they didn't get to do that in the last game. So what they need now is obviously some late game insurance, and they have that from Ryze now, but they also need that early game from an AD carry. So let's see what happens. So G2, they already have Ashe and Misfortune. That's a strong bottom lane. You get so much utility, so much lane control in the bottom side, and Zyra doesn't have a lot of mobility either, so she can have a hard time unless you get an AD carry that complements your all-in style of Zyra. But okay, Rek'Sai will be locked in for G2. I like that idea, because then you also get a very a normal jungler, a consistent jungler that has a lot of control in the jungle as well. She doesn't bring a lot of damage like Lee Sin, but she brings jungle control, map dominance to the table, so to say, just because she can get tunnels to move around the map very fast. She has a consistent amount of damage. She has a knock-up as well, so she pretty much is just a standard jungler, in my opinion, right now, in terms of what you want from the jungle. So what you are going to experience now is that G2, they recognize that Fnatic have no AD carry, and therefore they ban away both Jhin and Varus, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so that's the Varus. Fnatic, they need either Varus or Jhin at this point in order to get some playmaking potential. Yes, you still have your top laner. You can go for a Nautilus or a Maokai. Shen is banned away. You can go for Fiora as well if you want to buy a little bit more time. Oh no, never mind, she's banned. So you can't even go for that. So it's all about Maokai or Nautilus right now for Fnatic in order to get any playmaking potential, because Varus and Jhin are banned away. There is no way that you can get playmaking potential from the bottom side now. And therefore, Fnatic, they also ban away the Trundle, because they know that they have to get either Nautilus or Maokai, and Trundle is a strong counter with the Subjugate. Then he can deny your tank stats. So they recognize this, and therefore they ban away the Trundle. So let's see what they pick up. So okay, G2, they already have the playmaking potential. Syndra is left open. You don't have to worry about your mid laner opponent picking up Syndra, because he already picked up Ryze. But with Syndra being locked in, you again don't show too much of your composition. I know it's weird to say, but you only have picked up, you only have 4 champions picked up at this point, and you're not showing too much. You only have strong lanes. You're not showing exactly what you're going for in terms of your playstyle. You have a strong bottom lane. Yes, you can make a little bit of global plays with Rek'Sai and Ashe, but Syndra isn't exactly a mid laner that shows way too much. And again, Reckless goes for an Ezreal. And again, it's not a bad pick. He has a lot of damage, but you simply just need some playmaking potential. I would rather have seen a Sivir that would have worked way better in terms of utility, in terms of recognizing your strengths on your team, and in order to play to those strengths, because now you have a Nautilus. He would work really well in terms of getting more mobility. Same comes out for, same applies to Ryze. Because with Ryze having his Realm Warp and a Ghost, you would get so much more mobility on him. You would be able to run in fast, you would be able to team fight easier. And you really need that on Fnatic. You need a way to engage onto D2 Esports. Because they don't have a lot of disengage. Yes, you have the Ashol, you have Misfortune's Bullet, Rain Bullets, I'm not quite sure what it's called, her E. And you can use that to disengage, but that's pretty much about it. And if you got that Sivir, then you would be able to get in with the Realm Warp. You would be able to allow Amazing to get in and do a Dragon's Rage kick backwards. You would be able to allow Source to get in and land his ult as well. Just that way you would complement your team so much. However, Fnatic, despite them coming out again with not the best pick and ban phase that I've seen, especially in terms of bottom lane synergy and second ban phase. I haven't seen too many pick and ban phase. Let's make that clear first of all. But I'm not impressed with how this went for Fnatic. They were able to win the game and tie it up. So we'll jump straight into game 3 now to analyze that pick and ban phase. And now we move on to the third pick and ban phase between D2 Esports and Fnatic. So Fnatic were able to tie the game up after G2 Esports. They made some mistakes here and there. Let's turn off the sound real fast. After they made some mistakes here and there, and allowed what? Oh, that's eye drops. Okay, so they allowed Fnatic to get back into the game and scale, but it also was a really close game, so to say, despite the two teams making a lot of mistakes. But Fnatic in the end simply had more damage because they made that late game scaling team composition, despite them going for a little bit more of an early game to start with. Okay, so we are already in pick and ban phase. Let's just get started. D2 Esports, they once again ban away Katarina, which is one of Caps' mid laners. I'd have to assume. I don't really know Caps that well. I know that he plays Orianna and he knows how to play Ryze as well. Especially Orianna, because I used to cast him in the Go for Lols. But Katarina is also a fairly strong mid laner, can be a huge pain in the ass after her rework. So you don't want to give that over. If Caps doesn't want to play something like Syndra or Talia. So they also ban away Jhin, smart of them. Then that means that you can pick up Ashe as your first rotation unless Zyra is open. And then force Fnatic to try to pick Varus here in the first rotation, or let him get banned in the second ban rotation as well. And Fnatic, they obviously ban away Camille again, strong top laner, Rengar, strong jungler, and LeBlanc, strong mid laner that we know Perks likes to play. So a usual pick and ban phase coming out from Fnatic, so to say. So let's take a look at what's going to be picked. Okay, so they're hovering over Elise. I wouldn't mind seeing Elise. I still think she's fairly strong, but simply isn't the best anymore. And I know that shoutcasters aren't supposed to talk about hovers, and I'm just a huge fan of Elise. Leave me alone. Anyways, Syndra being the first lock-in for G2 Esports. As a mid laner, she is the strongest one left. You could go for Talia, you could go for Orianna, but I like the fact that you go for Syndra instead. And that just means that you now give Fnatic the opportunity to pick up Zyra and Ashe. And they pretty much have to do this at this point, because you know D2 Esports, they will pick it up if you don't pick it here. So that just means that G2, they have an idea in mind of what they want in their second rotation and what they can counter Fnatic with. So also Syndra is a very safe mid laner. She, despite her not having a lot of mobility, also has her escape, so to say, in her knockback. So she is fairly safe, and on top of that you do get a lot of damage, which pretty much everybody most likely have seen on Reddit. So Zyra is the first lock-in. What I would like to see is the Ashe being locked in here as well, just because Sven has played it a lot in this series, especially on top of Zyra. And if you just pick Zyra, then you will get into the same habit in the last game where you pick a support, yes, a good strong support, but you don't get the AD carry on top of that. You don't get someone who can play really well with her, and you will get countered by the misfortune. So I really like to see, I would really like to see Ashe being locked in here. I don't want to see you pick up Lee Sin. However, we still have to keep in mind that Iron is open, and that can be picked up for G2 Esports, because we know Trick, he wants to play that, and it would work really well because of your standard 2 carries in Perks and Sven. We know that they can deliver when they need to, so just getting a jungler that can support them, make sure that they stay alive, could be really well. And Fnatic, they pick up Shen instead. Certainly not a bad pickup at all. But so what I really don't like about Shen at this point is that you get a strong top laner. Yes, I do really like him as a top laner right now because of his Stand United. But the problem about Shen at this point is that he's being picked so early on in the team composition that you could wait with that, because again, I don't know whether or not Fnatic, they want to pick up an AD carry as their next pickup, but you have to wait. EU production. They have to pick up an AD carry. Jhin is already banned away. You have shown that you want to play the Ezreal, but it just haven't brought that early game pressure to the table that you really need. So I really would like to see them, instead of Shen, pick up an AD carry, then swap those 2 rounds so that you pick up Shen here instead, so that you can defend your AD carry. Then you could have gotten the Ashe, then you could have gotten Varus instead. Varus is still open, and you have to pick that up right now if you want that to be what you play your team off. Yes, you can go for an Ezreal again, but you won't get that early game pressure on top of Zyra that you really need. And Zyra can be countered really hard by Misfortune, who is still open, who works really well with both Ashe, Zyra and Rumble, especially because Ashe has so much utility and Rumble has his equalizer. So a Misfortune here would be wonderful for G2 Esports, especially if Fnatic don't pick up an AD carry that can work well with Zyra. And they don't do that. They pick up Lee Sin. They focus on getting those comfort picks. So 100% is G2 Esports. They will 100%. I don't think they won't. And they have to ban away Varus. They really have to do so. Because if they don't do that, yes, if they didn't do that, then Fnatic would be able to pick up that Varus. Then you would be able to get that strong AD carry with the utility to help your team, to help you make the plays in the early game. That is the Lee Sin, that is the Zyra that would be complemented so much by the Varus. Also Shen, just with the help of his Stand United, would get so much out of the Varus pickup. So smart of them to ban away Varus, and I really think G2 Esports, they came out with a lot of smart pick and ban phases in this game. And Fnatic, they ban away Vexar and Kha'Zix. Don't want to give a strong assassin over to G2 Esports. What I think is the biggest problem is that I would rather see a Kha'Zix coming in from G2 Esports than... Oh, wait. Okay, so what I was saying is that I would rather see a Kha'Zix coming in instead of an Ivern. Because Ivern is still open. And you have a team that can get a lot of stuff, a lot of utility, a lot of help out from Ivan just because of his kit. So I don't agree with the K6 being locked in. I would rather see that being taken by G2 Esports if Ivan were banned. Okay, no, let me rephrase it. I would rather see Fnatic go up against the K6 than an Ivan, because you have the potential to fight against the K6. You don't have the potential to fight against an Ivan, because he's just going to be laid back. He's going to be focused more around his team, whereas a K6 would be focused around getting kills, around invading, around making plays on the side lanes. And Lee Sin and Shen can work together in order to shut down the K6 pick. So, what I really love about G2 Esports is that they're focusing a lot on Reckless's champion pool. So they both ban away Jhin, VODS, and Ezreal. Really, really smart, because we have seen Reckless go onto the Ezreal whenever there hasn't been anything left to take. And now with Jhin being locked away, with Ezreal being locked away, and VODS being locked away, what is there left for Reckless to take? Because you can go for the Sivir, but there aren't a lot of AD carries that can make plays. You can still go for Caitlyn. If she would work well with Zyra, you would get the snare and the trap combo. Oh, Cannon. So that's a Cannon ADC. Yeah, okay. That also is fine in terms of utility, but you have a really low range and you will get outranged by Ashe. So what they are really focusing on here is all in, create plays, get out. And if that fails the first time you try to do that, then you will get in so much trouble on the side of Fnatic. You really need to make that Cannon work. He falls off around the later stages of the mid game, so you really need to make him work, especially against Ashe and Misfortune, who will have so much disengage from the volley, from the bullet rain, the E of Misfortune, and the enchanted crystal arrow. You really need to make that one engage work. Obviously you have the tools to do so with Shen, who can also TP in from behind, the Dragon's Rage from Lee Sin, but you need to make it work. And if you don't do that, then G2 Esports, they will just win in terms of utility and in terms of wall damage, because your top lane has damage, your AD carry has damage, your mid lane has damage, and you have a jungler that will support all of that damage, all of your carries. So overall, G2 Esports, they just come out with such a good composition right here. So well played and so well picked, in my opinion, because that is definitely a beautiful composition and a beautiful draft from G2 Esports. And the last pickup from Fnatic, I don't really like that. I don't know whether or not Caps can play Taliyah, but she would be way better in this composition, in my opinion, so that you could get more global potential, so that you could get your cannon rolling, so that you could shut down Ashe and Misfortune, and perhaps even shut down Rumble, because Taliyah with her Weaver's Wall would be able to get around the map so much more than an Orianna, who is going to be hard stuck, so to say, in the mid lane where she has to farm. She has to get relevant, and if you don't do that, then she will have so much trouble. And the problem about Fnatic is, once again, they went for that late game scaling team composition with low damage. There's not a lot of damage on their side in the early game to mid game, with low playmaking potential, because they didn't recognize that they had to pick an AD carry even faster. So what I really want to see from Fnatic in the like later stages of the LCS is that they have to get better in terms of draft facing, and they have to get a bigger champion pool, because this is simply not acceptable. The way that they're drafting, the champions that they aren't able to play in order to complement the team that they're building. Italia would have been better. They could go for Cassiopeia instead also. Just that would even bring more damage to the table in terms of mid-game power spikes for Fnatic. So I really think that they came in with a heinous draft, something that really wasn't that good. And G2 Esports, they just simply outdrafted Fnatic, and that is why they won this series. And that was a video about how G2 Esports, they simply outdrafted Fnatic so many times. Fnatic didn't recognize the second ban phase, they didn't recognize which champions were left open, and therefore they just got outdrafted. Didn't get that strong composition which they could have gotten, and therefore G2 Esports simply were able to take the series 2-1, and that is something that we have to see coming out from Fnatic in the later stages of the EULCS. They have to improve on their draft phase. They have to get a bigger champion pool, because if they don't do that, then they will continue to get into this trend where they'll fall behind in terms of overall momentum of champions. They won't be able to draft so good as G2 Esports, because they simply don't have so many answers in terms of what they can play, in terms of what they can pick here and there. So I really think that is something that they need to improve on, and especially Reckless has to improve on it as well, because yes, you can play Ezreal whenever stuff goes bad, but you need to be able to play the Ashe, you need to be able to play the Varus, and you need to be able to play Jhin, and I know that he can play all of those. He is a strong AD carry, but he simply just needs to recognize when he has to pick them, and he needs to play them more often instead of the Ezreal, instead of falling back to that, or to a Kennen, which is a low damage carry. So that is pretty much a summary of the three draft phases. Fnatic not having the best draft and G2 outdrafting them. That is the end of my video of, the first video of Benvarmeren's breakdowns. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll be looking to do more videos of this. Hopefully I'll be able and have time to create these videos more regularly. And I hope that if you enjoyed it, then you'll go perhaps leave a like on Twitter or Facebook for me. Subscribe to my YouTube, spread the word, whatever, because I really do enjoy what I'm doing right here. Especially when a draft phase is so interesting and the team is so bad at drafting. Fnatic simply didn't draft properly, and that comes from a Fnatic fanboy. I'm a huge fan of Fnatic. So I really think that they need to improve on their draft phase, and if you saw the video, then you know why. So thank you all for watching, and have a good one.